Greetings, Neuse Little Pod listeners. This is your host, Matt Gore, reminding you to please like, follow, subscribe, and share the podcast on your available podcast apps such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and any other podcast app you can think of. Share our episodes on Facebook and let us know what you think with a comment or review. Now, please enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome to Neuse Little Podcast, an audio program discussing the almost 50-year history of Neuse Little Theater and the backstage antics and stories that come along with running a community theater in a small town. I'm your host, Matt Gore, and we are coming to you from NLT's stage and base of operations, the little log cabin located on the banks of the Neuse River in Smithfield, North Carolina. We lovingly refer to it as the Hut. Hello and welcome to another episode of Neuse Little Pod. Try as we might this year, we did not manage to do our Halloween special on time. I'm sorry, folks. I know we said we had a Halloween special planned for you guys, but either rain or circumstance or bad audio or what have you prevented that from happening. So our apologies. In lieu of that, we have Todd Johnson, who came and he works at the Heritage Center. He came down and talked to us on very short notice, and we appreciate that. So without further ado, our episode with Todd Johnson. Hello, folks, and welcome to Neuse Little Podcast. We are recording an episode today with a very special guest. He has been the music director for several of our most recent musicals here at Neuse Little Theater, and we're very excited to talk to him about that experience, among others, like working at the Heritage Center and leading up the Ghost Walk. We're very happy to have Todd Johnson on the podcast. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good.
Thank you for joining us today. Now, you work at the Heritage Center, is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
And what do you do there?
So I'm the executive director. I was the first executive director when the Heritage Center was created back in 1997 and left in 2003. And after an 11-year hiatus, they let me come back.
Oh, okay.
So I've been there since 2014.
For those listeners that aren't aware, what exactly is the responsibilities of a Heritage Center? What do you do?
Our Johnston County Heritage Center is somewhat unique. It's a county agency. A lot of historical societies have museums and libraries and things like that, but we have a museum and library that's under one umbrella, and it's a county agency that's funded in part by the county of Johnston.
Takes care of the history and all that.
Right, we preserve history. We have a genealogy collection that's heavily used, and also a lot of artifacts and records and anything that you want to know about Johnston County history as well.
Interesting. Maybe one day these audio files will be a part of that Johnston County history.
I hope so. Yeah. We're counting on that.
What was the basis for it coming to Johnston County?
Well, during my hiatus, the Heritage Commission decided to start doing the Ghost Walk, so I don't get any credit for it. It was already, already well established when I came back in 2014. But it's a wonderful event. It's become my favorite event that we do at the Heritage Center because it's intergenerational. It involves kids and grown-ups and everything in between, and it's a lot of fun. It's just a great outdoor event, and we get to have fun teaching history. So it's a lot of fun.
My fiance reminded me that was one of our very, very first dates ever, and I had totally forgotten, and that I had taken her to the Ghost Walk. And it was
the Smithfield Ghost Walk?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
A lot of fun.
She's a librarian who heads up her own Ghost Walk in Mount Olive now. But anyways, so how did you get introduced to Neuse Little Theater?
So it's funny. I started with Ruth Mills working on a couple of productions at Smithfield Selma High School. My son was in the marching band at Smithfield Selma, and
I was too.
He was in the band room one day, and Ruth came in and was telling Brian Jones she was desperate. She thought she had somebody lined up to play the piano for Charlie Brown, and he backed out at the last minute. And did he know of anybody that might be able to play? And Cliff raised his hand. He said, "I think my dad could probably do that." So she called me, and I have a hard time saying no. And I had met Ruth. I didn't know her very well at the time, but anyway, I decided, I'll do it. It might be fun. So we did that show, and then we did Snoopy Come Home, and that was a lot of fun. And so after we had done a couple of shows together at the high school, she was close to retirement, and she was getting ready to direct the Nonsense Country Western Jamboree, whatever it was.
Yes, that is nonsense number 3, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Three
All
out of
right.
6.
About a sister with amnesia or something like
Yes.
that. Yeah, okay. So she was getting ready to do that and asked me if I would consider being the music director and the pianist for that. So she twisted my arm again and got hooked. And so that was really my debut with Neuse Little Theater.
Well,
and I think that was in 2013, maybe.
yeah. Well, we're very glad to have you because someone of your talents is in much demand. Now, when you look back on all the shows you've done with Neuse, what are some of the ones that really stand out to you? What are some of the ones that were really fun?
So several were really a lot of fun. I guess the one that was the most fun for me was Something's Afoot. I just thought that was a stitch, and the music was fun to play. It wasn't stressful, and to learn, and we just had a great cast, and everybody had a good time. So that was probably one of my favorites, and
Now,
also the 25th annual
Yes.
Putnam County Spelling Bee. That was a stitch. I guess those two would be my favorite. I like the funny stuff.
when you're trying to do the musical directing thing, I've only done it. I've only been in one show that you were a musical director for. That was 1940s Christmas Carol.
Oh yeah.
You were in Something's Afoot.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you were.
I
You
don't
got you got killed off like in the first scene, right?
Yes, I had one song in Something's Afoot that I did forget about that. But I don't remember any of the rehearsals for that. I don't.
I remember you had some sort of conflict or something, and anyway.
I might have arrived late, and that might have been
there was something like that.
That might
yeah.
have been the thing that the contention that when Ruth casted me was that I was the very first one to get killed, and I had played a butler before, so I kind of had a quote unquote butler outfit.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, but I don't remember any of the rehearsals, but I do remember the rehearsal process for 1940s Christmas Carol because that was hard music, and I'm not a very good singer. Singing's never been my first thing. So your approach to teaching that music to us, you're very patient. You're very patient, much more than other music directors I've worked with over the years.
That's what I've been told. That's just my style. I think music is something to be enjoyed. And, especially with community theater. I mean, nobody's getting paid except for the directors. But, people here as volunteers, and they need to enjoy what they do. They don't need somebody, beating them over the head. And, you can teach music and you can teach anything without making it stressful. Everybody has their own level of talent and their own, giftedness, and you just take people where they are and try to develop and grow them. I've had several people that I've worked with who I don't think they had ever been on a stage before and had never really sung very much. But if you give them a chance, and they usually come through.
Right.
It may not be perfect.
No.
The pitch may not be exactly what it needs to be all the time, but that's okay. Just it's about building confidence, I think.
Yeah, that's like half of it, don't you think? That because everybody's so timid when they first start out because it's not something they think they're good at.
I mean, it's very intimidating.
It is,
especially if you haven't done it before.
And then you see somebody doing it really well, and you're like, wow.
Yeah. Well, but I enjoy working with people, and I enjoy seeing people grow.
So what's one of the ones that you've done that had really hard music in your mind that was annoying to you?
Well, I don't guess it was annoying, but Music Man was rather stressful.
Because it was so big?
It was a big production and had a lot of moving parts, and we had the full orchestra for that production, and I think that's the only one I've done here where we really had a full orchestra. Well, a fairly full orchestra, but it was somewhat of a challenge, and I guess the end product was pretty good, but just getting there was a little bit stressful. I was in school at the time working on a degree, and so I had that and was working a couple of jobs and then doing that. So it was just kind of a stressful time in my life anyway.
Yeah.
But it came together, and we made it happen, and we filled up the auditorium at JCC, and
it was very full all
with
3 nights. We did. That was only the one weekend at JCC, and that's the last show we've done at JCC, which was, I don't know, 8 years ago. So, what's one you've always wanted to do? What's one that you think about and you're like, I really got to do this one?
Ooh. I think I would enjoy doing Showboat, and one of the reasons is that I've, used to be the director of the Ava Gardner Museum, and
Right.
being an Ava Gardner fan, and I think that was one of her best roles. And yeah,
Directed
I
by
know we've
James
done,
Whale.
Yeah, and I know that's been done here, but I was not involved in the Showboat productions here.
Do you know that the same person who directed Showboat, also the movie Showboat, also directed Frankenstein and The Bride of Frankenstein?
Ah,
Yeah, James Whale.
how about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's some trivia I did not know.
I always found that interesting. James Whale is a very interesting figure. If you look up his Wikipedia, he was found dead in his pool, and one of his lovers might have done it. Anyways,
Oh boy. There's a movie.
no, it was a movie with Ian
Oh.
McKellen, Ian McKellen and Brendan Fraser called Gods and Monsters, and it is a excellent movie.
Well, Ian McKellen was one of Ava's co-stars in a movie back in the early 70s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In that movie, he says he prefers Showboat or The Invisible Man over Frankenstein.
Ah.
So, anyways, I don't know how we got on that tangent, but it's interesting.
Well, Showboat. So, yeah, maybe at some point I'll have an opportunity to participate in a production of Showboat. Yeah.
When we were deciding what to do with the tie-in with the Ava Gardner Museum, when we finally decided to do Night of the Iguana, Showboat came up a lot.
Yeah.
But the problem with Showboat is we've already done it twice.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I love Night of the Iguana. In fact, that's my favorite Ava Gardner movie. I think that was her best role.
Really?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You don't? All right. Okay, so you're like an Ava Gardner aficionado, a little bit?
Well, a little bit.
Okay. Let me ask you this then. Don't you think she was a little past her prime in that? I thought I've seen her in just a little bit sharper and all that, because I saw Night of the Iguana directed by John Huston, starring Richard Burton. What are your feelings on that?
So I just think that's a movie when she really was able to be herself more, and she kind of let her hair down.
Right.
And she just
Yeah.
seemed to be more natural. In a lot of her early movies especially, it was obvious that, she had had a lot of heavy coaching, and I don't know.
Yeah, the consensus is it was the most Ava of all her roles.
Yeah.
They're going to
yeah.
come at the Ava heads are going to come after me for that, aren't they? I'm sorry.
Why
I'm sorry.
don't you know?
And do I have to remind our listeners, Ava Gardner was born a couple miles down the road in
It's
what's the
Grabtown.
Grabtown, not Broad Slab, like I said last time. I
Yeah,
was
Grabtown.
wrong. Steven looked at me. He said, "They're nowhere near each other. What is wrong with you?" I was like, "I don't know."
Well, Brogdon, Broad Slab sound a little bit alike, right?
I think that's
Yeah.
where it got
So
it.
she is beloved around here. She is our little
Grabtown is the name.
hometown celebrity hero.
Yep, she is our claim to fame.
Her and Percy Flowers.
That's right. Exactly.
Now, okay. You do the ghost walk. Why hasn't there ever been an Ava Gardner ghost?
We have had Ava Gardner as a ghost.
Sorry. Go into that a little bit.
I want to say it was maybe about 4 years ago. Ava was one of our ghosts.
Interesting. You'd have to find the right lady for it. If you didn't have the right lady, it wouldn't be worth doing. Was it just part of the ghost walk, or was it its own little feature?
No, it was part of the ghost walk.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, we usually had, back in those days, I think we had 6 different ghosts. And Shannon Lee played the part of Ava Gardner.
Do we know?
She was
that sounds familiar.
I don't know if she's ever done anything with Neuse Little Theater, but she was.
No, that's Sharon Paris, the biscuit lady from from Dixie Swing Club.
Pierce, Sharon Pierce.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. She did. She was a student at the community college here,
Okay.
and that's how we had gotten to know
Interesting.
her. But she played the part of Ava and did it very well.
The only time I've ever, I must have missed that ghost walk. I'm not always able to get to every single one, but I did go. I don't know how much you know about. I think we talked about it one time on the podcast, but back when there was the Ava Gardner Independent Film Festival with Kirk Adams.
I never did go and participate in that.
He used to do what they called the Ava's Midnight Stroll,
Right.
and we walked around town, and he would point out places that Ava Gardner might have visited, and
Okay.
and it ended up with us walking all the way out to Sunset
Right.
and visiting the grave.
Now,
And
gather around, everybody, gather around. Now, listen, this is an area Ava Gardner could have walked. It's very possible. Now just move further down. Move further down.
Well, there was a lot of that. It was we ended up over at the old hotel, and he goes, Ava Gardner may have come through here at one. It's like whatever.
Ava Gardner may have done a lot of things.
It was a lot of. It was the first year he did it. Was the crowd that was with us was so earnest. Stephen and I couldn't stop laughing. They were so excited. But we ended up out at the grave, and they left a shot glass with a little bit of booze in it and a cigarette for her, and then this bird started chirping, and one of the ladies on the walk goes, oh, you hear that? That's Ava. She's talking.
My God.
And it's like, yeah, I have some really great pictures.
Another glass of rye, please.
But yeah,
they should have left a martini glass on her.
Was that her? Was that her preferred beverage?
That was her thing. Yeah.
I went with rye because that sounded old timey.
But no, I highly recommend it. If you ever want to resurrect anything, Ava's Midnight Stroll is pretty spectacular.
We should do that just for the comedy of it. No, do you want to do it?
You can't recreate it. They tried to do it the next year, and everybody who came thought, because we had talked it up, Steven and I had talked up how fun it was and funny it was, and everybody on the thing was in on the joke, so it didn't really fly.
Yeah.
You have to have some folks who are really, really into it to really get the good.
They should do we should. They should try to work on like an Ava Gardner. Wasn't she an Ava Gardner musical? Wasn't she married a couple times?
More than a couple of times.
So we could. Yeah, her different. One of her husbands was Joe DiMaggio, right? No, or was that Marilyn Monroe?
No, it was Mickey Rooney,
Okay.
number one. Artie Shaw, the band leader, number two, and Frank Sinatra, number three.
Oh,
And,
wow.
Who was it that was obsessed with her?
Howard Hughes.
Howard
The
Hughes.
billionaire.
Okay. So
Yeah.
she definitely got cheated on a lot.
There is
Mickey
a
Rooney,
play.
Frank Sinatra.
There is a play about Ava Gardner that's been written by Elizabeth McGovern from Downton Abbey.
Okay.
And she is playing the part of Ava Gardner, and it premieres in London at the Riverside Studios Theater in January.
Elizabeth, if you're listening to this, and I'm sure you are, you are welcome at the hut anytime. I'm just kidding.
Well, we're hoping that
I'm
she'll
joking.
come. Next year is Ava Gardner's 100th birthday, so
All right.
we're hoping that Ms. McGovern will be able to come and be part of that. We'll have an Ava Gardner festival next year as part of
Interesting.
her 100th birthday.
Interesting.
So a lot going on.
We look forward to that. We might have to go. When that rolls around, we might have to have you back on
Yeah.
because
And
that.
maybe we can do the midnight stroll to the cemetery.
Yeah. You're talking about as like a group, not just me and you, Todd, right?
Yeah, a whole group. Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe Kirk will come with us.
Is he still alive?
Kirk?
So far as I know, I haven't seen him in a while.
He's not around here anymore. I think you may have moved to Raleigh. I'm not sure. Did we talk to Chris Johnson about Kirk? I can't remember.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
That was on our Chris Johnson episode where we talked about Kirk.
He's
And I thought
not
you
in
and
the
Chris
area.
were brothers for a second.
Oh, no.
Your brother Todd, right? And he's like, huh?
Nah, we don't claim each other.
Okay.
We're neighbors.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, they live down in my neck of the woods.
Yep, Mita's my neighbor too.
So I got to go by and get a shot of Mita's yard and put it up on Reddit if she'll let me, because
Single-handedly bringing down property values
That's
in
right.
downtown Smithfield.
they really appreciate it. They do.
Way to go.
Now, we covered all that on our last episode. So Todd, besides Showboat, what's another one that you'd really like to do?
I'd have to give that some thought.
Have they ever drug you on stage and been in a part before?
No, I can't memorize lines. I just can't do it.
I guess the
You'd have
closest
to
would
hold
be
a gun to my head and make
when
me do
you
that.
were on stage to play during a show. I mean, because you were technically in 1940s Radio Christmas Carol.
Right, and Good Old Girls, they had
And
us
Good
on
Old
the
Girls were on
stage, and the
stage.
nonsense thing, and simply because there was not enough room to put us down on the floor.
Right.
Yeah.
So
We don't
that's the
have
reason
much
we
of
had to
a
be on
pit
the-
area here at the
No,
hut.
we don't really have an orchestra pit here. We need to work on that. But anyway, we made it work. And,
Put you in the basement.
Yeah. Cut a hole in the floor, maybe. Yeah.
So, when working with Ruth, would you say that's your best collaboration here? Do you just?
Yeah, I have always loved working with Ruth and Patsy. The three of us normally work together. Patsy does the choreography, and Ruth was the director, and I did the music, and we were a good team.
Yeah.
And I hated to see Ruth go, but I
Yeah,
know.
Ruth's in the mountains now. She's
Yeah.
she's moved there now, but she's welcome back anytime.
Oh, yes.
She says she's coming back, so we'll see. But now there will be probably a different director of the musicals going forward, and that'll be
Right.
like would you still be interested in doing the musicals under a different type of
Sure,
director?
of course.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
I will break out my whip tomorrow. No, one of the ones I would love to do, but I hem and haw around like really wanting to do it. I would love to do Sweeney Todd,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it's Sondheim and the music's real hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've directed a Sondheim like musical review, and Sondheim music is deceptively hard. Like it's like everybody's like, "Oh, I love Sondheim," and then you start to learn it, and you're like, "Oh, I don't like Sondheim anymore."
Yeah.
But Sweeney
I've
Todd
never
would be
actually seen the
awesome.
production. I've seen it on Office. Y'all
Oh.
watch Office? Yeah, when
I saw-
Andy played the part, in Office. So
I'll have to. I have a DVD of the Angela Lansbury, George Hearn, I think
Okay.
is his name, production of it. So I'll see if I can find it. I'll let you borrow it. It's a great show. The romance part of it is the worst part of the whole musical. The best part is eating people and killing them and stuff. But
yeah.
the love story gets really really boring.
Yeah. When I've seen the Tim Burton movie, that's about it. And what I remember, I was just like, man, these throat cuts look good. I was just like, we spent some money on these. Now, okay, how about this one? Me being a little bit of a history buff, and especially presidential history. What about assassins? Have we ever considered assassins before?
I think we've talked about it before, but that if you think Sweeney Todd's gonna be hard, Assassins is even gonna be worse.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm ignorant when it comes to that.
The later in his, I'm not sure what the order. I don't know if Assassins came first before Sweeney Todd or not. Somebody's gonna be yelling at the radio right now, I'm sure. But the later the more modern you get with Sondheim stuff, the more nuts he gets with sort of the weird chords and progressions and notes and stuff. Like his early stuff, he studied under like Rodgers and Hammerstein, one of them. I can't remember which one it is. And so his stuff is fairly melodic. You've got Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum, and I mean that's his stuff. But then you get further and further down, and he does stuff like Frogs and Assassins and it just Into the Woods probably is where you start to. I think that's some of his earlier stuff that sort of starts to go into that really weird rhythm and things that he does. But I don't know. I just remember when we did the musical review, what I learned about Sondheim is no one instrument carries the melody because he feels that the voice is the instrument that carries the melody. So no other instrument has to do it for you. So everything else is sort of, you might hear a little bit of the melody with the piano, but also a little bit later at a few bars with the winds and a few over here with this. And he doesn't think that the piano has to play the melody the whole time.
And-
so there's nothing to follow.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
Which is hard if you don't know the music.
Trained singers can do that,
Right,
but if you're
exactly.
not a trained vocalist, then it could be a problem because, yeah, that's one of the things I've always had to do in playing and directing is, hammer out the melody for some
You're
people so
exactly.
they can hear it.
And
because
in the-
otherwise, it doesn't get sung.
I was gonna say, and so like in your show, in the actual production of the show music, the piano doesn't bang out the melody.
I know. It's
So
not
it's
supposed
like,
to.
well, I mean, in Sondheim shows it doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
It's busy doing other things, and
Sure.
so
Yeah.
so yeah, there's no and as far you can't go, okay, well the violins are going to take care of it this song, or the the clarinet's going to take care. That's not the way he writes. The clarinet will do it a couple bars, and the piano will do it a couple bars, and so it's all over the place. And so unless you know what you're looking for, you're on your own. So
Well, I'm open to Sweeney Todd. Why not?
Sweeney Todd would be great.
There's one that I'd really like. I think I can drag me down to Fayetteville to come see it. They did it last year at the Gilbert. It's called The Carols, and they're doing it again this year. And it's about it's a little similar to 1940s Christmas Carol, only I think the music is a little bit better.
I hope so. I didn't say that.
It's okay. No, we've talked. The problem is, on the first 1940s radio hour, they had recognizable songs, and then on this Christmas Carol, it's like, this is original music, and not all of it's good. And
Come on, you
It
know
was
that
kinda
Newark
funky.
song is in your head all the time.
I've tried to forget it.
and there's things, and and they're staying. Listen, they all can't be home runs, people. I mean, you do. I looked at it today. We've done 168 shows, and guess what? They are not all 5-star amazing, and sometimes it comes down to the script. And I feel in 1940s Christmas Carol, I was just like, this script is kind of, and there's just some beats that I thought could have been played a little bit better, and we tried to do the best we could.
Yeah,
but
we did.
When it goes back to a good script, the carols, it's about this group, these ladies in a volunteer workshop trying to put on a play of Christmas carols. So it's a play within a play, and there's little cute, funny songs. Like there's a cute song called "Only Mary an American," and it's kind of like a USO soldier number. And that's one I'd like you to see. That I'd like maybe the light will go off. Like, oh, we could do that. Because it's easily done. It's not a very difficult musical.
Yeah, you have to, for this space, you have to be really careful about what we do here because you can't have a huge orchestra.
Let's do the Addams Family.
Yeah.
Like you can't do Music Man or something like that
No.
here if you want a live performance of music.
Why can't we do Wicked, Mita?
There's so much we can't do about Wicked.
I think some of the best reviews that I remember getting for shows that I was music director for was Good Old Girls. We and of course we had the actual playwright and and the music writer. They all came to one of the productions, and we had a lot of fun. And Michael Mills played the jug. That was the best part.
Was he an A+ jug player?
He was.
I hear in high school he was first chair jug.
Well, it's very funny about that, and Sean will tell you that's his favorite part of the show. I couldn't get the sound right for opening night. I'm not a sound person. I know the basics. I can do just enough to limp us through. But on opening night, I couldn't get the balance right, and it was hard to hear. And so I called Sean in because Sean's a sound guy.
Yeah.
Mita's giving herself too little credit. Usually she's brilliant, but this one was just harder than others, and Sean is a professional.
Well, we had 5 wireless microphones on stage, and
usually we have 0.
Right, exactly. And which you had to have because we had a live band on stage.
Right.
You have to get over them in order for people to hear it. But I called Sean in, and he'd come dress rehearsal night, I think, and said, I'll be back and help you fix it. So he came. So luckily when the writers came, we had fixed the sound, and he stayed up there, and I think he helped me run it if he didn't run it himself. But that was one of the things he said. He found out Michael Mills was doing the jug. He said, can I mic him? I said, I don't care if you want to mic him. So he put a microphone on exactly. So anytime
he jugged on pitch. He did.
Anytime that he jugged, anytime the song had a jug in it, Sean's up there pumping that thing up. So that's pretty much all you can hear in the music is boom, 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 boom. I'm like,
boom, boom,
killing me, man.
But the audience loved it. The critics loved it.
Oh yeah.
Mr. Ferguson loved it, I think.
They seemed to really enjoy it, and it was very funny because one of the person who reviewed it, and I know her because she came back and did a show with us. It wasn't meant to be mean-spirited or anything, but she made a comment about how she thought we should have more light on the people who weren't talking over in the sides. And I was like, well, that's not the point. The point is the story you're being told.
Yeah.
And apparently that was what was the writers go, finally, somebody gets it. It's really about the people telling the story. So I was like, yes.
Well, there you go. There you go. Art is subjective. That is one person's opinion.
Right.
But that was a good show.
But that was the only thing.
We had a
in the whole
great
article.
band, especially the jug. But,
Oh, yeah. Well, anytime you put a live jug in a band.
and it was not planned. It was just like, Michael had a jug, and he said, why don't I play the jug?
Can I play this jug? Absolutely.
Well,
And I said, yes.
I think
Please.
Hold on, I got to tune up here.
I think he misses being part of the band, and because of his hearing issues, the tinnitus he has, he can't play the trumpet like he used to. So I think he was just looking forward to being part of the whole experience. So I think it
was
gave him an
great.
option.
One of my favorite memories of Neuse Little Theater, Michael the jug player.
And I think it got pointed out in both articles that got written.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you guys don't understand. This is Johnston County. Of course we have a jug player.
Can't have a country bluegrass band without a jug, man.
Michael's on standby for every show going like, you need a jug player? Like, This one's Shakespeare. I don't know if we need a joke. You know what? Okay, just go up there and play it for a little bit.
I bet his ears are burning in the mountains right now.
Probably.
We wish Michael and Ruth Mills well up in the mountains, that's for sure, because she was my theater arts teacher too. I mentioned that too. So yeah,
okay.
So she's the one that got me here. She was like, she said, like, in order to pass this class, you got to go see one live show somewhere, somehow. And I was like, oh, that means it's got to go right. Like, no, go to Neuse Little Theater. I'm like, okay. And I went to come see, and my first show was Misery here, and that's what got me hooked. Long story short.
Of course, Misery was the one that got you sucked.
It is. I still, Misery's still in the top 5 shows I've ever seen here. And so, by the way, so is 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee.
Oh, that was huge.
Shows that I am detached from, that I am not in or had nothing to do with, it is definitely in my top 5. And yes, Misery is in there as well. Do I think he would have been great as Annie Sullivan? Yes, I do. But
I'm not bitter about that anymore. Erica was awesome, Annie.
She lifted up the freaking bed and slammed it down. I'm just like, holy, I've been trying to do Misery ever since, and I came very close to. I've been trying to direct it, and as soon as the rights are available, I'll direct it somewhere. I'll convince maybe not Neuse,
I
but
thought the Gilbert would do it.
Yeah, I think that Gilbert would do it, and I tried to get the rights for CST because Heath was president at the time, and I had him sold on the idea. He was like, yes, let's do Misery for a Halloween show. And I went on the line, and the rights are not available. I even emailed the lady, like, am I looking in the right place? And she's like, no, the rights aren't available. Here's some other spooky scripts. And I'm like, okay, thank you. But, sorry, side tangent on Misery. Yes.
I missed that one. I'm sorry I did.
That was 2002. That was
Okay.
That was way back.
It's Stephen King. It's a Stephen King book.
Yeah.
But it was a 2-person show, and it's just Annie and Paul. Mm-hmm. And
I remember the movie.
It's a roller coaster ride.
In the movie, she knocks his foot with a hammer.
I remember that scene. In
yes,
the movie.
Everybody does. Compound fracture time. In the show, it's an axe. She chops it off or something.
I think she's supposed to chop it off. I think that's how it is in the book.
Yeah, and she put like something. It was like they did something with the lights where it was just like chop, dark, and then when the lights came up, she put something in a bucket and just a thud, and that's what kind of sold it as like, oh my god, I just chopped off his foot.
I don't remember all that. I just remember like that whole scene was pretty much pitch black dark, except for like the light on his face, and it's like she's talking to him from the dark, and she's got a big old axe or hammer or something.
It's great. I'm gonna do it one day. Somewhere I'm gonna do it one day.
It's the poor guy who played Paul. He's never come back and do anything with us before again. But he was like a.
If you chopped off my foot, I wouldn't come back either.
Yeah.
He was like a centenary student.
Old
or something.
Stumpers.
Yeah, and he God love him. He put up with that for 6 weeks.
Yeah, to be in a bed for.
He enjoyed it. I think
8 weeks rehearsal, 6 weeks rehearsal.
But yeah.
All right. Well, any final memories or final thoughts there, Todd, before we wrap up this episode?
No, I've had a lot of fun here in this building, and every time I do a show, I think, I probably should just not do this anymore because it takes up a lot of time, and even though I enjoy it, but every time Ruth would ask me, I would say, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So next time I'm asked, I'll probably say yes, even though I probably shouldn't. But it is always a lot of fun, and I always get a good group of people that I enjoy working with. There have been a few exceptions to that.
There's always one.
Huh.
Yeah, but for the most part, I've really enjoyed working with folks and getting to know people and seeing their talents, and
Right.
Well, we thank you for coming.
Shine.
I mean, a talented piano player is hard to come by these days. So we appreciate
thank you. You're very kind.
Vital part of the musical process, and anytime we need music in any show, we hope you can come down and make it for us. At
If
least
possible.
teach us how to do it. All right, we're gonna put a pin in it there, folks, and we'll see you later on this little podcast. Credits for the show. Your host and creator is Matt Gore. That's me. My producer and editor is Mita Toole.
That's me.
Music is by Cody Walker. Please go look up Cody on Cody Walker Music on YouTube, and he's also on Cody Walker Music on Facebook as well. He's local, so and he's got a couple of albums out. Easy listening, John Denver type of guitar voice. That Cody Walker. All right. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.